Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Let me remind yourself. Tonight's class is on the Parsha. We are honoring tonight's class for the mom of Luba Shach, who today is the Shloshim, the 30th day since she's passing away. So we're dedicating the class in her honor. And her name was Rosa Bat Chaya Musa and Bat Chaim. Baruch Chaim. May her neshama rest in peace. Be a good advocate for everyone, especially for your daughter here and the entire family. So we designated the class. Those who are on Zoom, I'm sorry, you're missing the very, very good cake.
Yes.
Which is being offered here. And we even have the honor of having a very unusual guest who is here joining us tonight in honor of the yahrzeit of the Shloshim. Okay, let me make a bracha mezonos. Pass me a little piece. So we start with the bracha. Just give me a little piece. We're going to start with a blessing, and then we're going to straight delve into the class.
See, this is why people should be here and not on.
Exactly, they're missing the cake.
Yes.
A little piece.
So we can see the white of the
Okay, here, give me a fork, please. Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Boirei minei mezonos.
Amen.
Very nice. Everybody, help yourself.
You first.
Levi.
You want to make sure that one don't get.
Rosa Barchaya Musa, Baruch Chaim.
Amen.
Oh. The apple pie.
Man, was that your mother's favorite?
Probably.
Luba,
Probably.
was this your mother's favorite?
Yes.
Mm.
Oh, Hashem.
She was a smart woman. She liked good things.
Of course she's a smart
Oh,
one.
it's still warm. Oh, did you see that?
I knew you can tell she's a smart woman when she has a smart daughter.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this week is Parsha Shemini. Parsha Shemini, the word Shemini means the eighth. And the Parsha begins with this describing to us what happened on the 8th day, which we discussed last week. Last week in Parsha Tzav, the Torah spoke about the special training and the dedication of the Kohanim, Aaron and his sons. Aaron had 4 children, and the first, his name was Nadav. Then he had a son Avihu. Then he had a son Elazar, and he had a son Itamar. And these children are being trained to serve as Kohanim, as priests, in the service of the Mishkan, which was just newly built, ready to be used, and not yet dedicated. According to our sages, the Mishkan was already completed on Hanukkah, which is in Kislev, but it was placed in storage until Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is when it's going to be dedicated. Coming week is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and Rosh Chodesh is the day which celebrates also the day of Hakamas HaMishkan. Oh, come in. So what it says on the Yom HaShmini is obviously the special services that this is described in the chapter 8 in Vayikra. After the 7 days, they begin the service. And Aaron does the avodah, the service in the Mishkan, just like God, or like Moshe had commanded him. And finally, there's a tremendous celebration of joy when the Shekhinah comes down and dwells in the Mishkan. This is in chapter 9. verse 23 and 24. Those who have a chumash in front of them and they want to follow and read it inside. So it says in Perek Tet, Pasuk Chav Gimel, it says, Vayovoi, Moshe v'Aaron Elohel Moyed. Moshe and Aaron came into the tent of meeting, and then Vayetzu, they went out, Vayevorchu Esa'am, and they blessed the people. Vayero kvoid Hashem el kol ha'am, and the glory of Hashem, the Shechina, appeared to the entire people. Eish belifnei Hashem, and the fire went down from heaven, from before God. Vatoichal ala mizbeach, and it consumed upon the altar. So oilo, v'sachalovim, the elevation offerings and fats. Vayar kol ha'am vayoroinu, and the people saw and sang out loud. They were happy and excited. That's the word vayoroinu, rina. Vayiplu al pneihem, and they fell on their faces, seeing the glory of God. Baruch Hashem, final. It's happening. The Shechina is with us. The operation worked. It all came together. And at that very moment, the peak of joy is when tragedy strikes. As you see on chapter 10, verse 2. Vateitzeh eish belifnei Hashem, and a fire came forth from before Hashem. Vatoichal oisom, and it consumed Aaron's two sons, Nadav and Avihu. Vayomusu lifnei Hashem, and they died before Hashem. Exactly what was the scene of Nadav and Avihu? Being different discussions, all trying to understand what is the meaning of what the verse says earlier. Vayakrivu lifnei Hashem eish zoro, that they offered before Hashem a non-authorized offering. Zara means alien, unauthorized. Asher lo yitziva oisom, something that they would not command. It means commentaries who discuss exactly what was the sin, which is not the topic of discussion tonight. This was already discussed through the years in very different ways. Tonight we want to discuss what is the response and what is the reaction to that tragedy. Obviously, we understand also that commentators say that there was unauthorized, and the meaning that they were trying to cleave, trying to connect to a level of godliness which they weren't prepared to remain alive while connecting to it. As we see that as a result of that behavior of Nadav and Avihu, we were commanded not to come in to the sanctuary as we wish. It has to be with a special plan, with special guidance. Anybody who wants to enter the world of the Mishkan needs to know that there is guidance, there is conditions. You don't just, like they say in Yiddish, no chaplap. You don't chap and come and make yourself comfortable. But I want to talk tonight about the response to the tragedy. First, Moshe's response, and then mainly Aaron's response. Moshe's response is, by the way, on verse 3. Vayomer Moshe el Aaron. Moshe says to Aaron, Hu asher diber Hashem leimer. This is what God had spoken to me, saying, Bikroiva ya Kaddish. God said earlier, Rashi tells us, when was it earlier? Somewhere in Chumash Shmot, that God told Moshe, I'm going to be meeting the Jewish people at the Mishkan, and I'm going to be sanctified by those who honor me. ונקדש בכבודי, אל תקרא בכבודי, אלא במכובדיי. I'm going to be sanctified by those who honor me. So Moshe tells Aaron, this is what God meant. What does it mean, this is what God meant? Basically speaking, God shows everyone that when it comes to the Mishkan, no one can come close, and no one should make himself too comfortable unless you are authorized. Not because you're such a tzaddik and you are considered my close person, bekroi vai, therefore you can do whatever you want. No. Even bekroi vai, even those who are close to me, and especially those who are close to me, let they serve the dugma. Let them be the example that you don't do what you want to do. There is order. What takes place in the Mishkan? God chooses very special people to be the example, the dugma. Took the special ones. This is what Moshe tells Aaron. Like it says in Shir HaShirim, Dodi yarad legano lilkot shoshanim. My beloved one, God, went down to his garden to pick up the roses. He took the best, the choicest, the holy, the special. And when people see that even the special people like Nadav and Avihu were punished for not following, so that becomes an example to everyone. So Moshe tells Aaron, you're lucky. You are lucky. What are you so lucky? You're lucky that you were the ones, you children. I actually thought, Rashi says in the Medrash, that Moshe tells Aaron, I thought it's going to be me and you. We are going to be the ones maybe to be taken. We are going to be the ones to be used as an example because we are the closest. We took the Jews out of Egypt. We are the oldest, whatever. And now I realize that Elu Gdolim Mimeni. You children are even stronger than me, are greater than us. But basically, in other words, he was comforting his brother after his loss, letting him know that, he had very special children, which is a way of nechum, a way of comfort. You tell a person, you accomplished, you did something great in your life, you are holy, God only takes the best, and you were taken. So hopefully, for Aaron, it will be a message of comfort, to the point that what is the response of Aaron to those words of Moshe? What does the Torah say? 2 words. Vayidom Aaron, and Aaron was silent. Why was he silent? So the Sforno is also like Rashi. He explains that according to the simple meaning of the verse. It says, Vayidom Aaron, says the Sforno, Itnachem bekidush Hashem shenikdash bemotam. That Aaron was confident. He was consulted. He was, how do you say? He was comforted. He felt better. He felt comforted. Right. Confident. But the fact that Baruch Hashem, look, God's name was sanctified by my children. It made him feel good. Right? Made him feel good. Baruch Hashem, I have good kids. Which is actually, we find in the Gemara about offering nichum, comforting people. What do you do when you come and you comfort a person? What do? You come into the house, I once read an article, how wrong people are comforting others. How many wrong things people say when they come into the house of a mourner? You come in, oh, she died. Never. What she died? Cancer. Who's the doctor? Oh, doctor. Oh, the doctor. Malach HaMavet. He's the angel of death. Everybody knows. Hello? Is that what they want? Is that what they want to hear? Oh, who was she at the hospital? Oh, no, you walk in there, you don't walk out. Hello? You came to help someone to make peace with a very tragic situation. Why are you adding salt to the wounds? Moshe is telling us, tell them they accomplished something in their life. The Gemara actually brings very beautiful Gemara, brings about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who a son of his passed away. And the Gemara brings a whole list of sages trying to comfort him. This happened to this guy. He says, you're not comforting me, just adding more salt to my wounds. Even when somebody told him, Aaron lost his sons, hello, not helping me. Until the Gemara says, I think it was Rabbi Yossi, if somebody came in and he said, Rabbi Yochanan, listen, he had a child, came to the world, you taught him how to learn, you taught him how to daven, he became a man, an accomplished young boy. You know, you took care of something which belongs to God, who trusted you to take care of it. And you know what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai responded? He said, you're right. Thank you. He said, you're right. Thank you. I am confident. Nichamtani kederech shebnei adam menachamim. Your words was proper words of nichum. I feel like that's what I needed to hear. I wanted to hear that there was a purpose for my child in his life and my part in it, and helping him to cultivate and bring his life mission to purpose. And now God desired to take him back, so it's God's business.
Was it another Rabbi Yochanan that came through that
Yeah,
time?
no, same Rabbi Yochanan, same Rabbi Yochanan. No, same Rabbi Yochanan. So in other words, first of all, you show him that the star, the one who passed away, that what Moshe is telling Aaron, and Bikrovai Akadesh, he's a Karov, he's close to Hashem. He had a chance to do good things in his life. In number two, he tells them, you know, there is his death was with a purpose. The purpose is now that God's name has become sanctified by the people, realizing that there is no playing around. There's a way to behave. This is the simple meaning the way everyone usually understands. What is the conversation between Moshe and Aaron? But there's a very interesting insight, an original insight given by Rashbam. Rashbam is the acronym of Rabbeinu Shmuel ben Meir. His mother was the daughter of Rashi. As we know, Rashi didn't have sons. Rashi only had daughters. And one of his son-in-laws, they were all great scholars and sages, was Rabbi Meir, and he had a son, Rabbi Shmuel, known as Rashbam. And he wrote a commentary in the Talmud. There is Rashbam in certain tracts of Talmud, and also on Chumash, there is Pirush Rashbam. Rashbam, many times, is very authentic, original, and also sticks with the so-called literal and more obvious translation of the verse, not necessarily using Medrash, just keeping to the simple meaning, even sometimes more than his grandfather Rashi. Let me tell you what the Rashbam says. The Rashbam says that really what's happening is as follows. In short, and then I'm going to show it to you what's in his words. Basically, when Moses tells Aaron that that's what happened now, is what God said, let my name be sanctified, it doesn't mean the passing of Nadav and Avihu. You know what it means? It means Aaron's continuing of service despite the fact that Nadav and Avihu died. This is going to bring the sanctification of God's name. And then when it says that Aaron was silent, does not mean he was silent from mourning. He was silent because he accepted Moshe's words and he continued his work and he postponed his mourning for later because now the job has to continue. Let's see how the Rashbam reads it in the verse. There's the Rashbam like this. Vayomer Moshe Aaron. This is when Aaron hears, he says that his two sons died. What does he want to do? Naturally, put on the guard. Say, okay, I'm in the middle of a day. This is B'yom Shemini. A lot of happening, sacrifices. There's dancing and celebration, and everybody's watching Aaron and says, oh, sorry, guys. I'm sorry, guys. Party's closed. We're taking a break. What happened? Tragedy. Everybody move away. It's over. That's what he wants to do. This is naturally what Aaron wants to do. Vayomer Moshe Aaron, says the Rashbam, Al titabel, don't mourn, and do not cry, and do not cease your work, because what I'm telling you now to continue the work. Hu asher diber Hashem lemor. This is what God said when He told me then, Bekrovai Kadesh, that I'm going to be sanctified to those who honor me. He meant you. He meant that you are going to sanctify God's name by seeing everybody watching how the service continues by Aaron, despite his tragedy. Let the work continue through you. This is Bekrovai Kadesh. Ba'al pnei kol ha'am ekaved, and I'm going to be honored by the entire nation. How am I going to be honored, says the Rashbam? That God's name and God's glory will be sanctified and honored by people seeing a human being who just lost his two sons on such a special occasion, in such a special day, on the peak of joy, and he puts aside his own personal pain and mourning, and he says, I am in the middle of service. And today is the 8th day. And this is the time when we are all waiting for and preparing all these days, 7 days, for the Shekhinah to come down. And the Shekhinah came down. And this is the home of God. And this is the old Mishkan that we're speaking about for the last half a year. And this is the atonement for the Chet HaEgel. I'm sorry. I am not stopping my work. Vayidom Aaron, says the Rashban. What is Vayidom? This is his words. Vayidom Aaron mima she'aya rotzeh leitabel velivkot. From what he naturally had desired to mourn and cry, he chose to remain silent and to postpone it. In other words, what does the Rashbam tell us? Bekrovai Kadesh, those who are near and close to God, and they are the ones, not the ones who died. That's a whole different Geschichte. It's a whole different discussion. How the ones who died, what message they share and serve and inspire, but that's not what we're looking here. According to what Rashi learned and others, the Rashbam says, Bekrovai Kadesh is those close people who are krovai, people who are very close and near to God. How do they deal with the pain? What do they do? How do they respond? When Aaron continues his positive work and he does not let the tragedy to stop his mission in life, that's a Kadesh. This brings out the glory of God.
Don't we similarly do this when we lose somebody, but on Shabbos, we also...
Exactly. Yes. Sometimes, yes, that's what happens when it comes Shabbos. You're not forced to mourn. And you wait. And that shows that instead of that natural tendency to concentrate about in the tragedy and to stop everything, you say, let me take this opportunity. The opportunity when everybody is looking on the mourner, what is he and how is he going to react, he or she, they show that our commitment to our shlichut, to our mission in life, understanding that serving Hashem is more important than everything, this becomes the greatest Kiddush Hashem. In other words, no one should ever think that Aaron is displaying a detachment from his feelings. Which, by the way, according to Jewish law, halacha, is forbidden. Judaism does not believe to hold in your crimes and your tears because you're trying to project greatness and emunah, and God knows what he's doing, and therefore it's not my business, and I don't have to cry. It's anyway all a part of this whole great purpose in life. No, the Ferush law, the fact that you are separating yourself from a loved one needs to pain you. And if you're not going to let your feelings to be expressed, what do they call it in English? You're going to deal with post-traumatic disorders. What's a post-traumatic disorder? You are going to, push it in somewhere, fold it, get somewhere in one of the folds in your body, and it's nice, quiet. Look at them, beautiful. Walk out, salute, akol beseder. Okay, today it's good, tomorrow it's good, a week later it's good. Suddenly, like a year later, 10 years later, explosion, Farkash. What happened? Remember 10 years ago? You're holding in the speckle. You wanted to cry so much, but you felt that this is not my place and it's not my way, and whatever philosophy you were confused with, and you said, I'm not going to do anything, I'm going to be cold about it. It's not the Jewish way. Shlosha lebechi, shiva le'avel, shloshim le'esped. The Gemara gives us an order. The first 2 days you must cry, and 7 days you must mourn. And then you have shloshim 30 days. And then at some point you gotta stop. Enough. Okay, gotta move on. Don't think that Aaron in any way is holding and postponing his crying because he thinks that he's not allowed, he wasn't crying. Matter of fact, if you look in the Ramban, Nachmanides, the way he writes, and these words, Vayidom Aaron, you know what his words are? Aya boche bekol ve'az shatak. Till Moshe told them, and he understood, like the Rashbam explains, that the job is to continue. It's a very important day today. And maybe it's like David says, maybe it's like Shabbos. He was crying. The Ramban knew what he's talking about. The Ramban was written by Ruach HaKodesh also. He says, look in the Ramban inside, on the word Vayidom Aaron. It says the Ramban, Haya boche bekol. He wasn't just crying quietly in the corner. They all heard him crying. Ve'az shatak. Then when Moshe came and told them, Kadesh, God wanted to continue, then he said, okay, I'm closing shop. I'm going to work. Unfortunately, we see it sometimes. Today's day, especially with tragedies like people who lose loved ones, had terrorist attacks, young people, soldiers, not even, an illness somehow. You're kind of preparing for it for a while, even nobody's ever prepared, but this is the nature of life, especially when it strikes all of a sudden, and you hear and you watch the funerals. Sometimes I watch the funerals and the way the mothers and the fathers, they speak with such strength, like, you think you're going to support them. You come out, so strong. from their statements, from their expressions of belief and continuation and life and emunah. It's unbelievable. This is Bikuravaya Kadesh. This is the sanctification of God, what comes out in such situations. And this is the real Vayidoim Aaron. Vayidoim Aaron is not I'm staying silent because I'm trying to control myself. Vayidoim Aaron, I'm silent because I'm busy with my mission. You elevate the situation to a view, an perspective. What is Klal Yisrael need to hear? I can tell you, I wasn't home, but my family always shares, going back to what David, I wasn't planning to talk about it, but just David mentioned Shabbat, okay? I wasn't home. This is 1988, Cheshvan, in the month of Cheshvan. Shabbat was the 18th of Cheshvan. And I had a little sister who was born 3 months earlier, which I saw her. I was in Israel that summer. I wasn't home. I wasn't learning in Israel. I was learning in New York, but I came home that summer for a week or two. My mother gave birth to a baby. Baby number who knows what, doesn't matter. And she was named Chaya Mushka. Because that year, a few months earlier, the Rebbe's wife, Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka, passed away. So a lot of Chabad were named. If you take a look, babies who were born in 1988, a lot of Chaya Mushkas. You go into school, you know, hundreds and thousands of Chaya Mushkas. They even made an album of Chaya Mushkas who were born in 1988. Looks like an encyclopedia. Anyway, but Shabbos morning, my father was already on his way to shul. And my mother saw that the baby somehow is not up. So she walked into the bedroom and she realized that the baby is not alive. She was still able to scream out from the porch, my father to come back. He came back, and yes, baby was gone. And my brother, Barry from Yisukwa, he was home. Other sisters always recall it, that it was Shabbos. Shabbos meant they sat down 2 hours later with the family for Shabbos lunch. Cholent, eggs, challah, fish, the Shabbos song. No, fish is only for you. The Shabbos songs, the nigunim. From time to time, my mother left the room. She had kind of to control herself, but there was no, in any way, any shouting, any crying, any weeping, any Shabbos. It was like Shabbos was dominating the situation in the house, knowing, not like here they took you away. The baby remained in the crib for the entire Shabbos, in the bedroom, in the house. Stayed covered, and in the next door, little apartment, it's like a house. Family is here, the dad is there, and you walk, a mile from a tunnel from the one to the other. There's no tunnel, it's an apartment in Yerushalayim. And it left an amazing impression of those who were there home, and on us too, because we heard about it. Always learn about it. The power to go above and beyond the personal tragedy and to realize what does God want from you now in relation to Shabbat, in relation to your family, in relation to you, in relation to your relationship with God. What does he want now? And don't think that the moment Shabbos ended, there was no screamings and shoutings that could have, burned the sky. Shabbos is Shabbos. After Shabbos is after Shabbos. This is Aaron HaKohen. Aaron HaKohen stands here. Vayidem Aaron. Moshe tells them, Mikrov HaKadesh. Okay? I want to tell you more. 1957, Tafshin Tezayin, there was in the month of Iyar, right after Pesach, there was a big difficult tragedy which struck Kfar Chabad. You have to realize Kfar Chabad today is not Kfar Chabad 1957. 1957, Kfar Chabad is a handful of families, survivors of Hitler, even more so survivors of Stalin, came out from Samarkand, from Leningrad, crossing two borders, leaving family behind, broken-hearted people, trying to make a life in Eretz Yisrael, with the inspiration and guidance of the Rebbe. Kfar Chabad was established by the previous Lubavitch Rebbe in 1948 for the Russian elder Chassidim who came from Russia. And they had a school there, which was for, what do you call, for print, for, what do you call the school that is for work? Bet Sefer Limelacha.
Trade school.
Uh-huh.
Trade school.
Other word. Anyway, let's call it trade school. So they had a school there, and came a few terrorists in middle of Arvit. And the way they did in Gaza, they took control on the electricity. The place became dark, and they started shooting right, left, and center, leaving four students and their counselor. Simcha was his name, Zilberstrom, his brother was my teacher, two of his brothers were my teachers, dead. And you can imagine 1957, the village was about to dissolve, to disappear. People were completely, as they say, oismensch, like, what is it? Hitler couldn't against us. Stalin couldn't against us. Here, in Eretz Yisrael, in Kfar Chabad, the Rebbe's village, the devastation. And you know what? 7 days, nothing came from New York. No message. No words of comfort. The only words was, no one is living. Allah, say something. Explain. You're the Rebbe. Write something. A week later, after the Shiva, the Rebbe writes a letter, inspiration, continue building. And you know, there are two letters printed today in the books of Igrot Kodesh. Two what I saw, maybe there is more. The Rebbe writes to two individuals, leaders in Israel country then. One was a Sofer, and the other Steinman, who was the other one. And the Rebbe writes them, that's what you are questioning. You're wondering, why was I quiet? 7 days, didn't hear a word from you. You know what the Rebbe says? He uses the words, Vayidom Aaron. I was quiet, like Aaron was quiet. And he says, there is no explanation what happened to Nadav and Abihu. There is words. I will be sanctified, and Aaron accepted it. But what's the explanation? No explanation. We don't know why it happened. We don't understand really. We don't grasp. Why is it in such a time, Yom HaShemini, the 8th day, definitely has to happen? We don't know. Vayidom Aaron. So I'm quiet too. I don't know. In other words, there is quiet in a way which we will continue our work, but I have nothing to say about the situation itself. And that becomes later you realize that is this is the response. The response is that despite the fact that I have nothing to explain and nothing to say, and I guess, afflicted by what happened, I will continue doing what I need to do. Because I don't understand you, God. We have a God that we don't understand. But there's something even deeper to that. This is I saw, is said by the Chatam Sofer. Chatam Sofer was big rabbi over 200 years ago in Pressburg, Bratislava. And we have over here is a commentary on Chumash. Torat Moshe, it's called, with 2 volumes right there. And I was reading it on I was reading it on what's today? Wednesday. On Sunday. The Khatam Sofer writes regarding Vayidom Aaron. He says something very interesting. Shemini. And the reason I'm looking at it is also because in our community, we also had experienced tragedy this week, starting a Saturday night for Shemini, when the news came regarding Ellen, but Alicia, the wife of Pablo, who lived in our community here. Some of you, I don't know if everybody knew here. She was originally from Mexico. The husband was from Argentina. And they had 2 kids, David and Uri first, and David. And never she was dealing with the bad illness, and she passed away on Shabbat. Very special woman, very much a special woman. And she died on Shabbos. Matter of fact, I was yesterday there in Florida. I flew down there for a few hours together with Tamir. And the kids tell me that last month she had a seizure. You know, she was dealing with treatment, and since then she became weaker. And every single day, somehow she tell the chaps. She kept on telling me about why you turning on the light at Shabbat. Why every single day, the last month she thinks every day at Shabbos. And she passed away on Shabbos. No, I'm not sure what it means. I don't understand everything. But let me tell you, so obviously this is the week that we are dealing with this. They respond to a tragedy, a young mother, 2 young kids. May Hashem give them this courage to live and to go on with life, which God willing they will. But the Chasam Sofer says like this. He says something interesting, also very original. He says what happened is Aaron was silent. So he says, what should we say? And Torah said he was silent. It means he could have said something and he didn't say it. Let's try to assume, to understand, what could have he say or what should have he say? Says the Chatam Sofer, there was a man in our history, became part of the Tanakh, who went through a lot of suffering, and his name was Eov. Job in English, which he went through tremendous tragedies. Eov. There's a book of Eov, and in chapter 1 discusses Eov's unbelievable tragedies when he turns to God and he says, Hashem Natan, Hashem Lakach, Yehi Shem Hashem Evorach. God gave and God took. May his name be as a blessing. This everybody knows that verse, but the verse continues, which even I didn't know. Maybe you know, I didn't know. I saw the Chatam Sofer bring it. But the verse says, "Ubechol zot lo chata Eov." In all this talk, Eov did not sin, velo natan tifla leElokim, and did not give any tifla, means like anything wrong or any bad words to God. What's going on? Said the Chatam Sofer. He brings the famous Gemara about Rabbi Meir. Gemara tells us Rabbi Meir had 2 children, and they both passed away on Shabbat afternoon while he was in shul. His wife, Bruria, with the kids in bed, covered them with a blanket. Rabbi Meir comes home after Shabbat, shiur, arvit, all excited. Where are the kids? Somebody went somewhere. Let's make Avdallah first. They're gonna come. He makes Avdallah. Where are the kids? Let's eat Palav Malka. Palav Malka, make Avdallah. His wife sits the next day and says, I have a question for you, my husband. Somebody who entrusted us with a collateral, with a picadon, and now he came and he wants it. I think we have to give it back to him. Looks at his wife, what are you talking about? Somebody gives you a picadon, somebody gives you to hold something, for sure you have to give it back. Okay, in that case, come into the room and covers the flying sheet. Hashem Natan, Hashem Laka. Here's the picadon. God gave us, and we decided to take it back. Says the Khatam Sofer. Listen to that. When somebody gives you to keep something, a collateral, he trusts you with something. He says, you can use it, have it, take care of it, use it, enjoy it. After 20 years, he comes and he says, need it back. What do? What do you say? Thank you. Came to such good use. It was unbelievable. And then as more you realize how good this thing was, you suddenly realize how bad is it that I'm not going to have it. Till it was taken from you, you took advantage. I have it. Now that it was taken, suddenly you realize even more how this item was so important and was so delicate and so beautiful. And then you can get angry also and start using words like why are you taking it? Start saying things that you shouldn't say. Aaron HaKohen, when he heard by Moshe that you had an amazing 2 kids, the Krovai HaKadesh, the holy and the close ones. And Moshe said, yes. That's what I have. What am I going to do now with Adam? And then he can start getting upset. Says the Torah, Vayidom Aaron. He did not say one bad word. Not only didn't he say a bad word, said the Khatam Sofer, he didn't even want to get in praising how wonderful it was for him by having his kids. You know why? Because he felt maybe by praising too much the situation, I might realize even more what I'm missing, and then I'm not going to say something nice. So I would rather be quiet. But it's not being quiet because, again, you're ignoring the situation. You're being quiet because you realize that you're dealing with something which has nothing with your understanding. You're going to find this explanation and that explanation. You're not going to get anywhere. Accept it. And by your acceptance is this bigger statement, how much you understand what it means to have a relationship with God. This is why it was quiet. This is why he didn't marry. It's okay, like the Ramban says, to be upset. It's normal. Aaron also was upset. It's okay to cry. It's okay to mourn. It's okay to scream. But at the same time to be quiet. Time to be quiet, first of all, because you don't want to be using word of chutzpah, God forbid, before God. And as more you're going to talk, you're probably going to end up saying something that you shouldn't have said. But even more importantly, it's time to be quiet because we are in the middle of a mission and life cannot stop. And I can tell you, we are sitting there by Tamir, by Pablo's house in Miami. So on the one hand, it was very nice to speak about Ellen, the good things she did in her life. She was helping Rochi with the mikveh, volunteering nights. She was helping us in shul here. I don't know how much you know that the furniture here, this table, you see it right now, this brown table, this is Ellen. I didn't order it. She told me what to order, and she was looking for good prices. And you know the benches that we have upstairs in the women's section, you know where it came from? Somebody came one day and said that there is a non-Jewish funeral home who closed down in Everett. I can get those benches, they're good benches. And I said, I don't think a new shul bringing benches from a funeral home and a non-Jewish funeral home. It doesn't fit to the personality of our shul. And benches are expensive because Ellen was looking into benches the whole time. We can get nice benches for the shul. And she said, Rabbi, listen, I'm going to find a company. We're going to remove the old material from the bench. We're going to refurbish it. And we're going to make it all,
reupholster it.
yeah, upholster it. And we're going to make it a whole new bench. And she found a company. And they were sitting there for 3 days with sewing machines. Yeah, with the old material, tearing it up, putting the material that we have now, fitting the carpet, the colors, whatever it was. That was Ellen. She did it. I didn't. She was the one, the force behind it. And everything in a quiet, everything no expecting, God forbid, any respect or any recognition. So the family is hearing that. And at the same time, they have to continue. We were talking about what's going to happen Pesach. Not like, okay, forget it. Don't talk about Pesach now. My wife died. I don't want to hear about Pesach. No, a Yid sits. He knows it's 3 weeks before Pesach. He has to plan. We're going to be here. Maybe we're going to come. Maybe this, Mexico, maybe Argentina. I don't know. That's a Yid. That's Vayid Demarin. That's the way we are projecting our silence. With this in mind, I want to also say and recognize Luva's mom. I'm sure it was also a woman of great accomplishment. I don't need to hear any story about it because the biggest story and the most successful story that you had a daughter like Luva. What else can you expect? Mikrovaya Kadesh, right? God says, I'm going to bring you down to the world so she can give you Luva to me. With all the good deeds. I'm sure she had her own good deeds. May Hashem bless us all that we should only merit simchas and happiness and joy and continue the shlichut despite all the tzores that we go through in Eretz Yisrael and around the world. And Bezrat Hashem, only simcha. When the Piach is going to come, you're going to maybe understand. Now I'm going to move on. Laila Tov, everybody. And the cake is delicious.
Thank you.
She had her two babies here.
She had the 2 babies here, sure. She had Rudy and David, and there was, and they had their bar mitzvahs here. Baruch Hashem. Only good things. Okay, guys. Everything okay?
Good.
Good. Okay, it's good and it will be better. God willing. You guys, whoever was not in the class today, missed a very nice cake from Luba.
Still some left.
If you can make you wait, there's still some left. Unless David Schneider finishes it all. Yeah. I sent you a message because I was a little stuck in traffic a little. I told you I'm going to be a few minutes late. Okay, I'll see you later. I'm going to another class. Thank you.
You can send me a message.